Hello. We are embarking on the period of the Geonim. The Geon in Hebrew means a genius, in modern Hebrew, or a pride of the community. So when we talk of the Geonim, we're actually referring to the rabbinic leadership, the spiritual leadership of the community, primarily based in Baghdad, or Bavel, which is Hebrew for Babylon. There are also Geonim, that's plural for a Gaon, in the Yerushalmi school, which would be in Palestine, ancient Byzantine area, primarily centered around the northern city of Tiberias. So we are going to embark on getting to know the Gaonim, their impact on Jewish thought, and some of the things related to them and their world. So one of the other things that we're going to be looking at is their relationship to the exilarch, otherwise known as the Reish Geluta, which means the head of the exile. Exilarch means like the monarch of the exile. This was a person who was based in Babylon and thought to be part of the Davidic dynasty for centuries upon centuries, operating more as sort of a political head of the Jewish community in Babylon. Now, neither the Geonim nor the Reish Geluta have any jurisdiction really across the Jewish diaspora. But the Geonim end up having a far more impactful role across the Jewish diaspora because the work that they were doing, which was to essentially finish the Talmud and then go beyond the Talmud with responsa and sheiltot, which are homilies and so forth, and answer questions from Jewish communities all over the world. Because of that, their impact would be felt and reverberated throughout the Jewish world, but in a very voluntary way, because they had no ultimate jurisdiction over any other communities. So one point I'd like to make is that Jewish history is very long, and Jewish spirituality and practice is not top down, forced in a hierarchical way. It's very much horizontal. You can look up a book by Jose Faur called The Horizontal Society that discusses this a bit more. So we're going to look at this intellectual world of the Geonim, the kinds of things that they produced, including a glance at the Igeret of Sharira Gaon, where he kind of lays out the rabbinic tradition, the rabbinic history, if you will, or family tree. And then we're going to look at one of the great all-star Gaonim named Saadia Gaon and his work, where he actually begins to deal with something very much in the hotbed of intellectual activity in Baghdad, which is Kalam. Kalam is an Arabic term that refers to a speculative theology or thought, intellectual work around sort of quasi-philosophical. So this was a realm that Muslims, Jews, Christians, and Zoroastrians and others were very active in. And they were rubbing elbows and sharing a lot of ideas, but they were then basing their understandings of the natural world and some of the kind of natural sciences in their particular scriptural tradition. So, Sa'adi Gaon, a practitioner of Jewish Kalam, would naturally been using the source texts, the sacred tradition of the Jews, which would be the Torah and the writings of the Tanakh, the prophets and so forth, and also some early rabbinic writings like the Mishnah. So we're going to look at Kalam and Saadia's place within the world of Kalam. Then the last thing we're going to check out in this unit are the Karaites. The Karaites are a community that are a offshoot from Judaism, a breakaway that becomes quite prominent throughout the Middle Eastern Mediterranean world. Karaites comes from the Hebrew Karaim, which is the same root as the Quran in Arabic, which means those who are really connected to the recitation or the text itself, the scriptural text. They ultimately reject wholeheartedly rabbinic Jewish tradition, which is founded and based in the Mishnah and the Gemara, which formulates the Talmud, which is all about the notion that oral Torah exists alongside a written Torah. That's what the rabbinic Jewish tradition is about, which essentially informs all versions of Judaism as we know today. That is to say that rabbis have a role to play in explaining the meaning of the written text, but also going further and dealing with matters that are important to the community in every generation based on a precedent of rabbinic thought. So to give an example of this, the Torah says that one should observe Shabbat. How? It doesn't say exactly and explicitly what one should do to observe Shabbat. So the oral tradition of the rabbis talks and explains a bunch of different areas of how one is supposed to practice Judaism and practice Shabbat. The Karaites, by contrast, look explicitly at the letter of the law. They look explicitly at the text itself and try and draw meaning or exegesis on the text itself to draw meaning. So they're very much like fundamentalist to the text itself. So they pose a great challenge to rabbinic Judaism over the years, and therefore we are going to spend some time studying them. Saadia Gaon speaks of them. They are involved in Kalam as well, and we even have a couple source texts for us to check out this unit, including the Karaite Anthology, which is a little snippet or excerpt for you to see how Karaites are actually toiling with some issues related to Shabbat and otherwise. We also will, again, as I said, glance at the Igeret of Sharira Gaon, which is a source text, and the Book of Beliefs and Opinions Introduction by Saadia Gaon, which is another primary source text. Outside of this, the readings will really center on Brody's look at the Geonim and their work, on Sarah Strumsa's work on Saadia Gaon and Kalam, and also, of course, we want to factor in and collate in the Stillman book. So, happy reading, happy watching, happy thinking.